And we're looking down here on the start of the penultimate day of the Santos Tour Down Under. It's the Jayco at McLaren Vale to the Old Wollonga Hill for the first time in 14 years history. We are finishing on top of a major climb in this event.
This is a day, Phil, that everybody's been talking about, and everybody in the main field extremely nervous this morning, not only because of the finish at the summit of Old Wollonga Hill, but also because of the very windy and breezy conditions.
And not surprisingly, as soon as the gun was fired, the attacks were underway here to try and get a workmanlike group up the road and try and get to the slopes of the Old Wollonga Hill ahead of the rest.
Stuart O'Grady sitting number 4 there for Green Edge, trying to get himself into the early morning breakaway to put a bit of pressure on everybody else. But not everybody had good luck in this stage.
Now, this is Will Clark, the winner of the road into Stirling, with such a brilliant breakaway. He had to change a bicycle in the end there. Anyway, 6 riders did get clear. They built a lead at one stage of 6.5 minutes. This would increase to over 8. Takashiri Mishiwawa, Stuart O'Grady, Thomas De Gent, Christophe Goddard, Nathan Haas and Andrew Fenn were the escapees.
But the teams of the bigger overall contenders decided they needed to come to the front end of this race. Team BMC did an awful lot of chasing to make sure that once that gap got to the 8.5 minute mark, it wasn't going to go any further.
Best placed man in the overall was Thomas De Gent, 7 minutes and 51 seconds behind the overnight leader Martin Kohler. And when the lead went over to 8:10, he was the virtual leader of the Tour on the road. The Jayco sprint here on Aldinga Beach didn't draw anybody's attention. They just continued to work clear of the field, led here by Christophe Goddard.
Yes, he took himself maximum points in a 3-second time bonus, but starting the day over 7.5 minutes in arrears wasn't really that much to shout home about. And the main field at this point, well, they were just basically riding along and making sure that that leading group of 6 riders didn't steal too much of an advantage. They all knew it was on the final lap around Aldinga Beach that they would really start to pick up the pace.
Yes, at this point, 63 kilometres done, they were well clear of the field. Then came the reaction. When they'd heard there was an 8-minute 10-second gap, it was first of all at the Lotto Belisol team who started to liven things up.
But they always got plenty of help from the other teams of BMC, always very close to the front. And also, quite interesting to note, the Movistar team of Spain were always very present, and they're the team there with the lime green helmets.
Into the town of Wollonga again, as the riders still maintaining a reasonable lead around the bollards at the base of the Old Wollonga Hill. Very soon they'll be going straight through and up the climb itself. But for the moment, they were making their return to Aldinga Beach, which was getting rather crowded. They've been passing it now for the best part of 2.5 hours.
Yes, but the main field now taking a serious interest as they went through the second Jayco sprint out on the day at Snapper Point after 103 kilometres covered. No contest at all.
Little mechanical problem for Christophe Goddard here, serviced by Rob Hadley on the Shimano neutral service wagon. He got back into that leading group. The peloton, though, were beginning to close in now. That gap was down to 3 minutes and 40 seconds. The reaction was paying off as the riders approached the massive climb of the Old Wollonga Hill.
As they approached the penultimate climb of Old Wollonga Hill, their advantage now down to inside of the 1 minute mark. The main field could basically see them in the distance.
Well, they were looking at each other there to say, well, is this it or what shall we do? While the field behind now were well organised to try and launch their sprinters. Somebody slipped a gear there and was standing on the roadside. Not the place to get a puncture. That was Steele von Hoff, and left standing as the field sped up. The breakaway imploded as there was an attack by Nathan Haas. He was trying to win the race on his own.
Well, he felt this was the right moment to move because the other riders in that leading group of 6 with him were starting to weaken, and he very smartly opened up an advantage of around about 20 seconds over Thomas De Gent, who is in second place on the road, and in third place Stuart O'Grady.
Cheered on by a massive crowd on the Old Wollonga Hill, Nathan Haas was 17 minutes 22 seconds behind the overnight leader. He wasn't a wanted man by the field, but he wanted to win the day, even if he couldn't win the race. But the field were not that far behind as he went through the finish line with 1 lap to go.
This rider rose to prominence last year when he won the Herald Sun Tour and backed it up by winning the Japan Cup. But behind there was a massive reaction. Stuart O'Grady pulled back into the fold just before they got to the summit of the climb. And Rowan Dennis looking for big points for the Uni SA squad.
And as they were descending away from the top of the Old Wollonga Hill, news was reaching the riders that the ochre jersey of Martin Kohler was off the back of the lead group and was trying to catch them up and rejoin them. So they were speeding away from him, and almost by coincidence they were catching up with Nathan Haas.
Yes, he had a 50-second advantage over the front end of the peloton when he reached the top of the climb, but that started to come down quite dramatically. And then on the descent, he was very smartly pulled back into the fold.
Then it was down to the big riders in the race now. Jose Ivan Gutierrez doing a lot of work for Movistar. We believed it was 4. Alejandro Valverde was very much in this group. The one man who had missed the split, though, was Matthew Lloyd of the Lamprey squad. He was in the next group on the road.
Well, the ochre jersey of Martin Kohler recovered on that descent and managed to reintegrate the leading group of riders. But as they went up to Wollonga Hill for the final time, there was a small group of 5 riders just off the front.
And almost exhausted, Gutierrez slips away off the lead group as the hill starts again, looking to see perhaps where Valverde was. But as the riders moved up towards the summit, it was quite clear where he was. He was taking on Simon Gerrans for the win. And as they made the left turn, the man who has been out of racing for the best part of 2 years was taking the sprint win. Alejandro Valverde getting his first win in his comeback event and getting over the top of the Australian champion Simon Gerrans of Greenedge.
Well, Simon Gerrans knew what he needed to do to try and get that victory. He needed to get the jump on Alejandro Valverde, but Valverde, with almost 90 victories to his career, is a prolific winner.
Congratulated by his Movistar team. They had worked for this for a week and they'd resulted with a win. But the ochre jersey would be on the shoulders of Simon Gerrans, and time would be equal overall. The 2 riders going into the final day equal on time. It really is anybody's guess as to who will win on the final stage in Adelaide. Simon Gerrans, though, had got the lead for Greenedge, and Jerry Ryan, the owner of the team, was there to present him with it. It couldn't have been a happier day because Jerry Ryan of Jayco had also sponsored the day's racing as well. He was a winner whichever way you looked at it.
Sí, el equipo ha estado genial. He ganado gracias a ellos y bueno, esta victoria va para todo el mundo que me ha apoyado y para Xavi Tondo y bueno, en general para todo el mundo.
And he said the team did a phenomenal job and he wants to thank everybody who supported him over these last 18 months. It's been quite emotional for him. Esta semana el equipo pensaría solo una etapa, la etapa de Wollonga Hill.
Sí, esta era la etapa que mejor me venía a mí, con mucha diferencia. Bueno, el equipo ha estado muy bien todo el tiempo, hemos estado adelante controlando, Rojas también haciendo los sprints y bueno, yo creo que de momento estamos redondeando un Tour de Nandes perfecto y bueno, sobre todo encantado de estar aquí.
The team have just been thinking about this one stage. They knew it was a stage that if Alejandro Valverde was in good form, that was a kind of stage that suited his ability, and now he's extremely happy.
I think we saw a fantastic race up here today, and it's having the finish on top of the hill here for the first time really added a whole other element to the Santos Tour Down Under, so I think it was a great addition to the race.
We were talking to your team management last night and they were concerned about one man, Alejandro Valverde, and it seemed to be that you were keeping a very close eye on him today.
Yeah, I was a little bit outnumbered there coming into the Wollonga Hill for the last time, and Valverde had the most teammates there and he was looking very good, so I really marked him in those last couple of Ks there and just tried to jump him on the line, but unfortunately he had the strength just to come back past me again and put us equal on time.